Hey guys, we're going to be speaking about Leviticus. If you guys have ever attempted to read the Bible from start to finish, you see that you can get through Genesis quite easy, and Exodus is a lot of fun. But then bam, you hit Leviticus and the wheels come off the bus. Leviticus is a book of law and is extremely difficult to read. Having said that, it is vital for every Christian to get to grips with. Why is this? Well, Leviticus talks about blood, sacrifice, and being unclean. It goes into such depth about these topics and how difficult the rituals were to remove sin. It is beautiful to read Leviticus and then read the Gospels and see how perfect the sacrifice of Jesus was. The book of Hebrews in the New Testament also refers a lot to Leviticus, so be courageous and try read it. The book is normally remembered for its rules regarding to unlawful sex, penalties for consulting wizards, and punishment of death for anyone who blasphemes. The book ends by echoing the whole short-term pleasure, long-term pain concept, which we first encountered with the story of Adam and Eve. Let's get to the themes. First up, we have this theme of sacrifice. There are 5 kinds of offerings that fulfill 2 main purposes. One, to show praise, thankfulness, and devotion. The other, for atonement and covering and removal of guilt and sin. Animal offerings demonstrated that the person was giving his or her life to God by means of the life of the animal. The sacrifices were for worship and forgiveness of sin. Through them, we learn about the cost of sin, for we see that we cannot forgive ourselves. God's system says that a life must be given for a life. In the Old Testament, an animal's life was given to save the life of a person. But this was only a temporary measure until Jesus' death paid the penalty of sin for all people forever. The next theme is worship. 7 festivals were designated as religious and national holidays. They were often celebrated in family settings. These events teach us much about worshiping God in both celebration and quiet dedication. God's rules about worship set up an orderly, regular pattern of fellowship with Him. They allow times for celebration and thanksgiving, as well as for reverence and rededication. Our worship should demonstrate our deep devotion. Leviticus talks a lot about health. There were the civil rules for handling food, disease, and sex were taught. In these physical principles, many spiritual principles were suggested. Israel was to be different from the surrounding nations. God was preserving Israel from disease and community health problems. We are to be different morally and spiritually from the unbelievers around us. Principles for healthy living are as important today as in Moses' time. A healthy environment and a healthy body make our service to God more effective. The next theme is holiness. Holy means separated or devoted. God removed His people from Egypt. Now He was removing Egypt from the people. He was showing them how to exchange Egyptian ways of living and thinkings for His way. We must devote every area of life to God. God desires absolute obedience in motives as well as practices. Though we do not observe all the worship practices of Israel, we are to have the same spirit of preparation and devotion. The final theme talks about the Levites. The Levites and priests instructed the people in their worship. They were the ministers of their day. They also regulated the moral, civil, and ceremonial laws and supervised the health, justice, and welfare of the nation. The Levites were servants who showed Israel the way to God. They provided the historical backdrop for Christ, who is our high priest and yet our servant. God's true servants care for all the needs of their people. Well, that's it for Leviticus. Next time we will be speaking about the book of Numbers. And it's called the book of Numbers because it talks about the census that was taken on Israel, but also has some cool topics like rebellion and wandering. So make sure you check that out. Awesome. Cheers, guys.